My life before I was diagnosed was busy. I was doing financial consulting. I had 2 one-year-old twins. I had a 2-year-old little boy. I had just completed a half marathon in Philadelphia. So as you can imagine, my world kind of got turned upside down. Madeline, can you go get the car mat and set it up right over Just here? Physically a challenge, not just for the surgery, but also managing my life because I was BRCA2 positive. And so, you know, to take a 37-year-old body and put it through surgical menopause, to me, that's, you know, that was my biggest challenge in terms of a new normal. I remember my first thought was truly, I don't have time for this. So I think I was overwhelmed, and one of the things I quickly had to learn was to allow myself to be embraced by my community. The person I relied on probably the most outside of my husband was my cousin, Piper, who unfortunately has passed away because of breast cancer. You know, you can't Google an answer for a lot of things. And she was a person that talked to me about, you know, what does menopause feel like at 37? What does it feel like to have a bald head against a pillow for the first time? I realized I don't know what I would have done or how I would have navigated without her. And I really wanted to be that person for, you know, for anyone who I could reach out to. I was connected to LBBC through my community. They were such an advocate, not only for diagnosis and through treatment, but also what life was like after breast cancer diagnosis. And that's what really resonated with me. They actually were having specific conversations about what does fatigue mean when you're trying to take care of little children. They're having real conversations about how this affects quality of life, and they're having an open dialogue. And to me, that was so valuable. And I felt as though what I had gone through would have been a little bit in vain had I not been able to share my experience and all that I had learned. And LBBC was the perfect conduit to do that. You know, patient advocacy is changing the world. And so we're able to partner with pharmaceutical companies, with government officials, and really be able to change the dialogue as it relates to cancer, whether it's diagnosis stage, treatment stage, or the after effects of long-term treatment.
I was diagnosed when I was 38 years old. I had a bilateral mastectomy. I went through chemotherapy, and I went through radiation. Continuing to work through chemotherapy was really helpful. It made me get out of bed, it made me go to work, it made me look like a normal, healthy, regular mother to my children. And they saw that mommy didn't have hair and wore a wig, but she was fine. My kids really helped me mentally get through everything. My children handled my diagnosis very differently. My younger daughter, who was 5 at the time, was great. But when I lost my hair, that's when it started to show. She would rub my head at night when I put her to bed. She'd say, "Mommy, you look beautiful, even without hair." My older daughter, who was 7, was not okay with it. And I always had to have my head covered. She never saw me without hair. I want them to forget what it looked like physically. I don't want my kids to be scared of it. I want them to know they're loved and that we did everything we could to make their lives normal. First of all, it's going to be right in my chair in the office. Being a dentist has nothing to do with breast cancer, so it didn't prepare me. I was just a patient like everybody else. My husband is a gastroenterologist. He is in the medical field, but the truth is that he was just a husband, you know, of a woman going through breast cancer treatment. A lot of people think that once you're through this, everything is great and you're done, and that is really not the case. It's something you think about every single day. So I have a friend who's very involved in LBBC, and she wanted me to get in touch with them, really to help. And the first time I was in touch with people through LBBC was when I held the flag at the Eagles game last October, and that was really great. My family was really supportive, my friends were really supportive, but no one understands how it feels unless they've been through it themselves.
Well, before I was diagnosed, I was a very ardent fitness person. I used to work out, I used to eat healthy.
I think there's a paper out there for this, like applying this model to trans population.
I was teaching part-time, and I had a pretty big clinical practice as well.
Didn't want my friends to know. I think as a kid you don't want.
And then I had 2 young children to take care of, so my plate was full.
Talked in very euphemistic terms.
I wonder what it felt like to be a teenager.
I initially thought I was a stage 0. I had a double mastectomy and reconstruction, but they found a few cancer cells in my nodes. So they told me that I had to have chemo, and then I went on tamoxifen for 7 years.
Relatively similar.
My children were, I don't think they knew really what was going on. When I started losing my hair, I asked them, so how do you want me to come to school? Do you want me to come with my bald head? And both of them unanimously said, wig. I was introduced to living beyond breast cancer by Elise Kaplan, and she invited me to speak at the fall 2010 conference. The title of the talk that she wanted me to give was Sex Matters and Getting Your Groove On. I had decided that I would not tell them that I was also diagnosed and treated for breast cancer. And my hair was growing back, it was still fuzzy, I didn't have a full head of hair. And I looked at myself in the morning and I thought, who am I trying to kid? Those women are going to know. And I decided to really break the rules of, psychodynamic treatment and, share with them that I was a cancer survivor, because I think it gives people hope.
We are going to be interviewing about 25 women who are diagnosed with breast cancer.
And I will be able to give them information, not only based on my clinical knowledge and my academic training, but also because of my lived experience.
And then I also have the tickets printed that is just this top part, which then we'll start selling soon.
Great, I think that sounds great.
Wonderful. I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer in January 2014, only 3 months after marrying my husband and at the age of 30 years old. We thought, we were ready to start our family and have our 3 kids, and we were going to move to the suburb, and then you get this phone call and then your whole life plan changes. You're asking the person who you love more than anything to bathe you or to clothe you or just to, sorry.
To be disrespectful of yourself.
I didn't know before I got diagnosed with breast cancer that cancer treatment can affect one's ability to have kids. We had to have some very tough conversations that my husband and I didn't even address yet. It was very intense because you just get this crazy diagnosis and then you go see the fertility doctor and they say, okay, if you want to preserve your fertility, we can do it, but you need to start tomorrow. And to do that, you need to write us a check for thousands of dollars. Fundraising and our event fundraising. We have 2 more events this year, so I said that this is something that I'm passionate about and I want to start talking about so other people are aware that there are fertility issues. Only 25% of oncologists have a conversation with their patients that fertility is an issue. I've never felt more loved than I have until I got diagnosed. And so I found, that I got most of my resources through my family, friends, or friends of friends. I wish that Living Beyond Breast Cancer were there as a resource from the beginning. The information that they provide would have helped me worry less about certain of the things that I was facing as I was going through chemotherapy. I think that in the end, that's all that I'm hoping for, is just to help other people get through probably the most traumatic and tough experience that they've ever gone through in their lives.
I felt that I wanted to give back to Living Beyond Breast Cancer. And I was thrilled when I was invited to join the board.
And if I could help one person who's going through this, then I would feel much better.
I think I can't imagine not helping. I think that's part of your duty when you've been so fortunate to come through this the other side.